Are you an athlete who would like to maximize your performance to succeed at the top level? Head on over to my website at jacobandre.com and book a free 15-minute discovery call to discover if and how I can help you. G'day and welcome to the Mind Your Body Show, episode number 73. Today I'm talking to Shannon Motlop. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thanks, mate. Well, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. What did we interrupt in your day today?
Probably should be out doing some work. So just doing a bit of harvest for the green ant gin. So yeah, probably should be out doing that. But I don't mind not being out in the sun today. It's a bit warm.
So when you say you're
Yeah,
doing a bit of work, what does that entail? What do you mean you should be out collecting green ants?
yeah, that's it. I collect the green ants that go in the green ant gin. So we have them in the bottle, and they're also distilled for the flavour as well. So interesting job. A lot of people wouldn't be able to imagine how I get them, but yeah, it's a pretty tough job trying to collect green ants. So um, yeah, it's usually I just grab the whole nest, and some people think I pick them one by one, but that would take a million years to get a good amount. So yeah, we collect the nests and send them down to Adelaide, and it goes through the distilling process. So.
So imagine you cut the nest off with like a pair of scissors or something. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, any sort of type of clippers you can get your hands on. So yeah, just knock the nest to the ground, and you try and pick them up and get them into the freezer as quick as you can before they come out of the nest.
Yeah, I imagine you'd be
Amounts.
getting bitten a fair bit. What's that like? You'd be all red over your hands getting bitten.
Yeah, I do get, and yeah, I think I might have picked a bit of an allergy up from it, but I'm yet to find out what that's all about. So yeah, I'm sort of living on antihistamines at the moment, actually. So I've got to get it checked out. I don't know if it's that, but yeah,
Sounds
yeah.
like Daniel's got you doing all the hard work and he sits back in Adelaide just doing
What do
all
you
the.
expect? What do you expect?
So it's a family business. Who's in this business?
My dad, my brother, basically my immediate family, and some business partners down in South Australia. So, Mighty Craft now hold a fair share of it, and yeah, it's going really well. It's yeah, we're really excited with where it's going, and it's been a pretty good journey. So yeah.
That's awesome. So how did the concept all start?
Oh, look, we all in Darwin, we know about eating the ants bums, and we didn't because we have a native food store called Something Wild in the Adelaide Central Market. We're based, and just I think it was a natural progression. We started experimenting with native foods in the top end, and Daniel was out in the bush a lot, and he took a world famous chef out into the bush and to show him what we have available here. His name was Rene Renzepi. I think he was voted best chef in the world a couple of times, a European chef, and he took him out, and I think at the end he said, "Oh, look, you can actually eat these, but I don't think you'll use them." And Rene said, "Yeah, no, they're great. I'm going to put them on the menu." So it went from there. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. And so what's the process like? So you go and you snip the nest off, you grab it, you say you put it into a freezer, but do you have a freezer in the back of the car? What's the process as soon as you get it?
Yeah, I've got a refrigerated van. So I'll just put them into buckets in the back of that, and they'll just go to sleep. Um, you can also bag them up, but I try to use the refrigerator van. It's a little bit easier, and you get a little bit less touched from the ants. And then they're just put in the freezer for up to 4 hours. You have to do over 4 hours, otherwise they wake up again. Um, so they just go into a bit of a sleep mode in the freezer, and if you get them frozen under 3 hours, they'll defrost and start moving around again. So you got to really kill them before you separate the leaf from the ant, and then you get it down to that where it's just the ant. So and then you package that off and send it down to Adelaide, and they do the rest.
That's amazing. So how did you know about the 4 hour thing? Is that just trial and error that they started waking up when you were freezing them?
Yeah, just trial and error. Yeah, you just I think a couple of times I did after 2 hours, and they woke up really quickly. They weren't frozen enough. But yeah, I quickly worked out. Yeah, it's at least 4 hours to be safe.
Yeah, and I've had green ant gin, so I know. But it's the whole ant that goes into the drink.
Yeah, they're floating in the bottle. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, have a good time and have a nice relaxing drink, and you get the benefits of the green ant and its health benefits. So.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because like I've grown up in Darwin knowing that you can eat green ant bums. So is the reason for not picking the bums off and only putting the bum in, is it just like that you can eat the whole ant and it's not a big deal? It's just easier than having to go and pick millions of ant bums off?
Yeah, you get the same flavors and all that. So there was really no point in really separating it. And yeah, it'll be it's probably not a job I want to do anyway, picking all the bums off because they're so small. But yeah, it's definitely good for colds and flus. Used as a remedy, for thousands of years as a cold and flu remedy. You can make it into a tea, and it gives off and the ants have an acid that they give off. They spray that when they're harmed. And often I have that all over my arms. At the end, I usually can feel the the acid all over my arms. So, funny enough, I wasn't doing ants for about a month the other week, and I got my first cold in so long. I actually thought it might have had something to do with not doing the ants. So I kind of thought for a while I was immune to colds and flu. So I didn't get COVID in COVID time and all that stuff. It's hard to say that that was the result of doing ants, but I kind of started to think that a little bit. But yeah, funny enough, I stopped doing ants for a few weeks, and I actually got the flu.
Oh, that's crazy. That's so, yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the health benefits, because I wanted to ask about that. But moving on to flavors of this drink. So I personally love green ant gin, and my favorite, I think it's too good of a product that you want to mix it with anything. So you want to have as minimal other flavors as possible. So my choice is just soda water. What's your choice of how to consume green ant gin?
Oh, look, I know this is a health show, but I like tonic with a little bit of sugar in it. So I'll usually go the tonic, and I actually put my homemade Rosella syrup through it. That's probably my favourite way to do it. Otherwise, yeah, just a bit of tonic and some lime. But I think often when I go to the restaurants and things, they're normally serving it with cucumber. So I think that's one that goes well with it as well. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So what's next for that business? Where's that all heading to?
It's just hopefully getting bigger and bigger, and just grows. We really, really see it as a territory owned business, and currently it's based in South Australia, but we really want a distillery in Darwin. So we've been looking into that and how that can work. But yeah, it just hasn't come about yet. So hopefully one day Darwin has a green ant gin distillery. So that'll be great. I think that's what we're aiming for in the next couple of years.
Yeah, awesome. So let's go back and hear the Shannon Motlop story. Take me right back to childhood. What was it like growing up in Darwin, and where did it all begin?
Most of my childhood, all I can sort of remember is growing up around the Nightcliff Football Club, because my dad and his brothers were just, as you do when you play footy, you just constantly you come home from work and you go to footy training. And I reckon if Dad left us at home with Mum, we'd have a fair whinge when he got home. So we just wanted to get down to the footy oval. All our mates were there. Some of my closest mates, Dion and Nathan Grant and Bradley Paris, those in footy would know those names. They were floating around the footy club all the time with their dads, and I just it was just a place you just wanted to be. And I think we developed our our footy skills and knowledge just from being around it so much, and always having a footy in our hands. So other than that, one of the things I love to do, we love to go hunting. We love to shoot magpie geese and get out and do all that stuff, and fishing and all that type of thing is what we just grew up doing, and that's led to our business. It's a big part of why we got involved in native food. I went to Nightcliff High School, St. John's for a little bit, St. Paul's Primary School. Really enjoyed my childhood in Darwin, and then quickly moved away at the age of 18 to pursue my footy.
Tell me a little bit about St. Paul's Primary School, because it sounds like the product house of, amazing footballers. Like, I've had Anthony Vallejo on the show, your cousin Aaron just recently. It sounds like there was a lot of, very handy footballers that went to that school. What was it like there?
It was good, but at the time we didn't know we were all going to be footballers. Well, I mean, Anthony Vallejo wasn't even playing footy at that point, from my memory. I think he got more into it maybe year 7 or into year 8. So I can't really remember him playing under 14s or anything. But but we had guys like Robbie Armack come through the school. These are all guys I went to school with. Scott Chisholm. And I think Nathan Buckley went there prior to me as well. So, lots of great footballers come through. The Clarks as well, Xavier and Ralph Clark as well. So, it was it was a bit of a footy school. But the school across the road, Milner Primary School, they used to flog us. So, funny enough, they had the ones with all the talent, but the ones that didn't go on. So, so I actually went over to Milner Primary School and played for them. They were that good. And there's a photo of that circulates through Facebook today of that team that I played in. Yeah, so it's great. I love growing up in Darwin.
Yeah, what was it like at recess and lunch at St. Paul's?
Actually, funny enough, we mostly played soccer. A lot of our kids were soccer players. So the footy was there, but a lot of it was soccer. So, I guess one of the greatest things about Darwin is we grew up playing all sports, not just, if you live in Sydney, you just focus on rugby league, but we're so focused on every sport up here, and you develop all the skills that you need. If you end up playing AFL, well, you've developed all these extra skills. And I think that's what makes our players better on the big stage. You look at the, Cyril Rioli and some of the other players that have gone through the AFL. Their tackling ability is, somewhat better than already developed when they get there. So, I think playing all the different sports has really helped me.
Talking about playing all different sports as a kid, and I'm throwing him under the bus here a little bit, but I remember there was an occasion where Daniel, your brother, was playing, obviously had played a lot of footy, and then was playing rugby league, and he made a break and he got through the line and he was like full out, and he took a bounce. He was just in his head. He was just so used to footy, and then he was playing rugby league, and as he's bouncing, he just put his hands to his head and went, "Oh, what am I doing?"
Pretty common story, that one that we hear, especially around the rugby. A lot of rugby people always come up and have a joke about it. So, it was pretty funny. We always talk about that one. Just getting a bit confused playing too many sports. So I think Daniel actually holds at one point he held the shot put record in Darwin for under 12s or something like that. So we did a fair bit of athletics as well. So.
Are you an Aussie rules footballer who would like to maximise your performance to succeed at the top level? My Australian Rules Football Dynamic Group Coaching Program is a 12-phase program that has been curated from my 15 plus years working as a strength and conditioning coach with local footballers right through to AFLW players at Adelaide and Richmond. To get instant access to my Australian Rules Football Dynamic Group Coaching Program, simply head on over to jacobandre.com/Australian-rules-football. What was your best athletics event?
Funny enough, me and Joel Bowden always joke about the state championships. He totally forgot about it because he won the 100 meters. So I think he was more focused on being the champ. But my uncle, I didn't know at the time either, actually, that it was Joel Bowden. But my uncle always tells me he's got a photo of me and Joel on the finish line and him just pipping me in the NT championship. So he got the gold, I got the silver. So, yeah, so the 100 meters was probably one of my best, but I was pretty good at the long jump. That was probably my favourite, and I missed out on the gold at the NT championships by 2 centimetres in that one, but it was my favourite event.
Do you know who that was to? It wasn't Joel again, was it?
I'm going to say his name, Leon Van Lingen. I'll never forget it because Leon always picked me at in every event. I actually got my PB and hit the front on my last jump, and he'd never jumped the distance that I jumped that day, but he got me by 2 centimetres and got his PB that day. So I think the fact that we were pushing each other might have been the reason why. Yeah, it was probably a healthy competitive sort of thing we had going on there. So, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's funny. So you went on to Nightcliff High and St. John's. How come the switch between the two? What were those schools like?
Started at St. John's, but I always wanted to go to public school because I just didn't want to wear a uniform. I'm pretty casual like that. I'm like that now. That's why I chose to do the job that I do. I just don't like getting in uniform and going to work. So, I pushed. Dad always sent us to Catholic schools right up to year 8, and I pushed him all through year 8 to let me go to Nightcliff High School. And he just kept saying no, and then finally he said a yes, and so I moved across to Nightcliff High. So, yeah, it was great. I had great years at Nightcliff High. A lot of good footballers came out of Nightcliff High as well. So, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so you played around as a kid, kicking the footy for fun at Nightcliff Footy Club. Who was the first club you actually played for, and how old? What grade was that?
Yeah, Nightcliff Football Club was my first club. I played through the under 14s there. I was there, my whole life. I was there before I actually played. So with Dad and his brothers playing, just running around the club. And then when I was 16, we all decided the whole family decided we were going to move to Wanderers after a bit of a club disagreement between the family and the committee at the time, and we just decided, we decided between Waratahs and Wanderers. They were the two names that were being thrown up, and we thought Wanderers was the club. We had a lot of close friends there. Russell Jeffries was there coaching at the time, and so we thought that was the right decision, and it was. It was a really good decision, and I loved my career at Wanderers as well. So it was great, and a lot of my good mates were playing there at the time, and are still there now. So it was good.
So I believe it was Wanderers was the club that you were playing at when you were drafted. Tell me about it. Correct me if I'm wrong there, and tell me about that process of being drafted into the AFL at the Kangaroos.
Yeah, so I was quite a small kid, so I was one of those kids that didn't develop till really late, and I'm talking really late. I didn't get my growth spurt till I was 17, and I was pretty, as a kid at primary school level, I'd gone away with the state teams a few times, and I was playing some good footy and actually captained the state. We went away and we won 5 of our 6 games and finished second to Victoria. And so I had a really good carnival in my last year in that. And by the time I was 17, I was sort of not getting picked in any of these sides. So I went off the radar a little bit and didn't know what to do with my footy. And Russell Jeffries gave me my first senior game in the NTFL. And I think it was a bit of a charity sort of thing. I didn't think I really earned my first game, but they gave me a game anyway because I'd started to grow and I started to must have started to look like I was developing. And I did all right. And so they played me another 12 games. And by the time I got to my 12th game, I was playing on, I was sort of given a stopping role, but I was also starting to get a kick as well and stop, some of the better players in the game. So some of the roles I got given was Brian Stanislaus, uh, Southern Districts, Popsy Collard, who was a great player and a forward, and I kept him relatively quiet. I think I kept him goalless in a final. So that sort of set me up. And my uncle Mark, who played at Glenelg, he said, "Oh well, look, it's probably time for you to go away. So we'll give Glenelg a call." And Glenelg didn't get back to us, so we decided, oh well, his mate plays at is coaching North Adelaide, so we'll go across to North Adelaide. So and that was Chris McDermott, who also played at Glenelg with him. And yeah, from there everything just really flew. I spent a season in the under-19s, then I spent half a season in the reserves and half a season playing in the seniors in 1996. I reckon. Then I did a pre-season with Paul Power. And by the 1998 draft, I was drafted to North Melbourne. And a really late draft pick as well. Back then there was that year there was 93 draft picks and I got taken at 85. So yeah, it was a really quick progression once I started to find my feet. Yeah.
How old were you when you played that first Premier League game or A-grade game back then with Russell at Wanderers?
I was 17. Yep.
Yeah.
And
so,
yep.
And then you drafted at 19 to North Melbourne. Tell me about that process. Was anyone from the club talking to you? Were you talking to other clubs?
No, and that's why I'll go back to why I was speaking about making the state teams at primary school level. I think I was actually drafted because I was noticed at primary school level, and then I was back on the radar in the SANFL, and I think the recruitment manager for North Melbourne kind of said, "Well, where's this kid been for the last 5 years?" And I just popped back on his radar. He just happened to be at one of my games, obviously looking at other players, and I just happened to have a really big game that day, and yeah, he asked the question like, I think he contacted my dad and said, "Where's he been?" My dad explained to him like he was a really late developer, and yeah, he couldn't get picked in the Teal Cup at the time, which was the under-18s. So yeah, I missed all that and went off the radar, and so I had to move to Adelaide and get back on the radar. And one of the biggest things is I believed in myself. I believed I could play AFL footy, and I just went for it.
Yeah, and so had the club told you that they're going to pick you up that day on draft day?
Yeah, they told me pick 4. I think pick 4 happened to end up being Gary Durkay. So I was really excited about that because I was told I was going to be picked up, and I knew there was still 7 picks.
North Melbourne, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, North Melbourne had 7 picks, and Gary ended up going at 4, which was meant to be me. So I thought to myself, well, it'd be great if I end up there now, but my chance might be gone because they said 4. So I sat and waited, and I think I went at the 6th pick. At pick 85, and then they went the 7th pick, Shane Clayton, at 93. So they picked up 7 guys, and Shane Clayton and myself, the last 2 picks, we played in the premiership that year. So everyone else missed out, but we actually found ourselves in the grand final, which was great.
That's crazy. You got goosebumps hearing that getting picked in the 80s and 90s and you play in the grand final. You've played in some, you've had some very unique experiences with the AFL. One of them is the fact that you played in a grand final in your first year. Tell me what it was like being involved at North Melbourne under Denis Pagan. You got players like Wayne Carey and Glenn Archer around you. Don't tell me about grand final day just yet. Tell me about the season leading up throughout that season.
I was really intimidating. Like I didn't play my best footy because those people were around, I thought. Psychologically, it was in my head, like, give them the ball. I didn't play my normal self, and I don't think I really – there was probably a few glimpses of the way I should have played and throughout my career, but having those types of players around early in my career – it was really intimidating. There's so many times I should have kicked goals that I passed it off to someone. So I really wish I could have just went in with a lot more confidence. I think my brothers did when they made it, because they'd seen me go before them and they felt like that's where they're going and that's where they should be. When they arrived, they felt more comfortable with it, I think. But I was very nervous when I first got there, and I wouldn't say nervous. I wasn't nervous, but I didn't harness all my ability when I played. I started to do that later in my career, but early on it was just so intimidating not to give the ball to some of those players and just back yourself in. And that's probably my biggest regret on AFL, is that I didn't just play my way and just take the game on.
And what was it like being coached by Denis Pagan?
Yeah, very tough. That was probably another part of it. Denis was it was a hard man. He was a good coach, obviously. I don't think I adapted to him quite as well as I should have, just because of the way that his relationships are with players and the expectation that he set. I felt going to Melbourne under Neil Danaher was a lot easier than playing under Denis Pagan. That's for sure. I felt a lot more comfortable at Melbourne. And Denis was he was tough. He was tough. Yeah.
So what was it like playing in your first season and playing in a grand final and winning the premiership?
It was amazing. It was and like I said, Denis made us earn it. So it's not as easy as just playing well and getting in the side. Denis actually made us train a lot harder than the rest of the players, those guys that were on the fringe. And he had come finals, he actually had a session set up, an extra session after training, which he called Who Wants It? And we all just had to go for it. And we went to war for about 30 minutes with the opposite, with the guys that we were trying to fight for spots with. So it was grueling.
I think, was it you, when I was involved with Wanderers as a fitness coach, was it you that said something about a drill where you kicked it out from the goal square and then two players just sprinted out and had to go back and kick the goal? Was that one of those activities?
It could have been.
If not, what were some of the things that you had to do?
Was it a one-on-one competitive?
Yeah, one-on-one, yeah.
It could have been. It could have been one of those. But yeah, it was all one-on-one. Who wants the footy? Go for it and just fight like dogs for it. And it'll be just repetitive, a number of different competitive drills. It was physically taxing as well. So it was pretty tough. But I remember at one point laying on the ground and I couldn't get up. And he's just screaming at me, do you want it? Do you want it? He doesn't want it. And you just land on the ground. So you slowly get up and just try to keep going. But I remember after the one we did before, so we did this before the grand final. So on the Wednesday, he put us through it. And I remember after it going, I'm gone here. I didn't go hard enough in that. And I thought I was out of the side just because of that session. So I was quite relieved when I got named on the Thursday night.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So not long after Daniel ends up at the Kangaroos with you, how long after was that and what was that like?
Yeah, it was great. It was great having your brother. Yeah, but unfortunately, um, the time that I was there with him was only about 3 years, and his first year he didn't play too much because he was young. His second year, I think I got a little bit injured that year, missed a few games, and we played a couple together, but not as many as we'd like to. And then in my last year, they Dean Laidley became coach, and I went out the door when Dean Laidley came in. Unfortunately, Dean Dean I thought he saw a lot in me the way he spoke to me, but he wouldn't name me on game day. So yeah, it's funny. I was playing as good a footy as I could too at the time, and he wouldn't name me. So he I think he brought in a new heap of recruits that he wanted to play above me. So yeah, it's you quickly go out of favour.
Yeah. Did Daniel get upset with that? Because then Daniel didn't leave, left not long too long after.
Yeah, yeah. I think he did. Daniel only spent another year or yeah, another year after I left. So, and then yeah, then they were quite surprised why he wanted to leave, but I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and obviously Daniel then requested a trade to Port Adelaide.
Yeah, he did.
Port
Yeah,
Power. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so what was the next journey like for you, the next chapter, where you then go out the door at North Melbourne, you end up at Melbourne. So there's a whole bunch of stuff
Yeah.
that goes on with how that happened. But what were you doing in that transition period?
Um, I sort of I decided under Dean Laley that I didn't want to play footy no more. I didn't want to play AFL no more, and it was I sort of carried that through the year. So I decided at the end of the year I said don't want to be here no more. Um, North Melbourne obviously it was a mutual agreement, and I decided to go back to Adelaide. So I spent a year in Adelaide there, and I thought I'd get redrafted because I was very close to getting a trade, but it didn't come through. There was a number of clubs we were talking to, and I thought, well, if I have a good year in the SNFL, I could get picked up at the end of the year. And so I went through, had a really good year in the SNFL. And then, again, Geelong, one of them, were one of the clubs that I was speaking with. And it didn't actually happen. So the draft came and I missed out. And so I decided, well, that's the end of my AFL career, which I was okay with. And I went through and done another preseason with North Adelaide, heading into my second year with North Adelaide. Draft was over, but luckily I entered in the draft because a position became available for me in the worst of circumstances after the tsunami and Troy Broadbridge losing his life in the tsunami. A position became available. And I just put my hand up for that. I came in at late notice because I only picked up on it. My wife made note of it in the Adelaide Advertiser. The article was in there saying that there was 4 guys going for spots on the Melbourne list, and they were about to finalise that. And I put in a last-minute application, I guess. And it was interesting because I was coming back to Darwin to play in the prelim final that weekend, and I came back and we won it. But the Melbourne Scouts were up in Darwin watching that game after I'd contacted them, and immediately after the game they announced that I was going to Melbourne. So I ended up missing the grand final in 2005. So yeah, to this day, it's a bit of a regret of mine because I think if I played, I reckon we would have won it. We ended up going down by a couple of goals, but I reckon I could have got us over the line. I reckon without being cocky. I think I could have made a difference. So I really regret that moment. But I got the opportunity to go to Melbourne. Who can give up that opportunity? So I had to take it. And they wouldn't allow me to play the grand final. So that's how it was.
What was it like being coached by Neil Danaher?
Yeah, it was good. Neil was a lot more relaxed than Denis Pagan, like I said. I felt a lot more comfortable around him. I did have to break into a forward line of Aaron Davey, Adam Musa, and Byron Pickett. So I was constantly up against that. I spent I played my first season. I didn't do too bad. I barely did a preseason and actually came into the AFL system again in 2005. But I was riddled with hamstring injuries due to back problems. And I think that was a lack of conditioning. So I actually did my hamstring 7 times in one season, but I think they were just muscle spasms that were causing the hammy to go off because it'd only be sore for a week. So I got down to playing every second week in my first season, but I got all that right late in the season. I ended up playing finals for Melbourne in 2005, but unfortunately Geelong pumped us by 100 points that day. And then I got my body better in 2006 and only managed 3 games that year. So they set me emergency for nearly every game of the season. So trying to break in was pretty hard with the likes of Aaron Davey and that holding their spots and playing good footy. So that saw me out at the end of 2006 and I got delisted.
Yeah, so you get delisted, you leave Melbourne, you come back, you play footy here, and you're now into coaching. What's coaching like compared to playing? What are your philosophies? What do you try to do with your coaching?
I try to read the play when I watch a game. I try to read the play as though I'm out on the field. I really try to take myself back to really feeling the game as a player. And I think that's one of my strengths is the way I feel the game, and also I really I think selecting the players that you want to play for your club is first and foremost, and really really important that you get the right people to play the right positions. And also just relationships with players as well is probably number one at the top. Got to have good relationships with players, and I've always had that as a player. I've always been a part of the social side of footy, and that's bringing players together. And I'm not talking, having to have alcohol or anything around. I'm talking, when guys come to Darwin, making sure they have a really good Darwin experience and that they want to come back as well. So I'm pretty rounded in my contribution as a player to the footy club and as a coach as well.
Yeah. So you coached initially at Wanderers and now you're now at Pints. What was it like to be the inaugural Premier League coach at Pints? And what are you looking for in progress this year?
Yeah, it was great because you get to start with a blank canvas, and we did start with a blank canvas. We brought in a lot of good players. Unfortunately, Pints are in a position that we rely heavily on players from down south, and I reckon me coming on board was an opportunity to recruit locally. It doesn't help because if I do recruit locally, they're 4 points. So that doesn't really work for us. And I'd like to see that change. But so coming on board, I was just working with a bunch of players that we brought in. We didn't know how they played, but we knew they were good players. But what we ended up in the first season was a really competitive team, but a very unbalanced team. We were very tall, a very big side, lacking pace, and we had to work with that, and last season there wasn't much we could do about that, so we were just competitive for the whole season, which the boys were really proud of, and we probably underachieved by not making finals, but in saying that, we would have made finals if we could beat Tiwi. But but we couldn't beat Tiwi because we were a little bit slow. So you would have thought last year was a must win, a definite win against Tiwi, but not for us. It was actually troubling.
Yeah, I've heard a lot in these episodes, particularly speaking to Chopper at Saints and Ezzy at Waratahs, in the importance of getting to a grand final and playing in it. And of course, you never want to lose it, but playing in a grand final first before winning one. And both of them attributed playing in grand finals and losing to their future success the following year.
Yeah.
It sounds similar with Pints in the entire season. Do you think that it was still a success in that while you didn't play finals, having that experience and nearly playing finals has set you up better for this year?
Yeah, for sure. We just used last year as our base, and we hope we made all the right decisions up until now to put the right side out on the field, a more balanced team, and we can only sort of see what's going to happen in the future when we start playing. So we think we're in a good spot at the moment. In regards to making a grand final and maybe having to lose one first, depends on how experienced your team is. So if you've got a very experienced team, well, then that shouldn't be an issue. And I think that's what we've got. We've got a very experienced footy team, and if we did manage to make a grand final, I wouldn't say experience was an issue. I think we're capable of winning it based with the older heads that we've got. So I think it wouldn't be an issue for us. But yeah, I can see how a younger developing side would need maybe to lose one before they win one. So you look at Waratahs, they took a good, I don't know, 4 or 5 years before they actually won it. So it's taken a fair effort and a lot of energy to pull it all together.
So would I be right in assuming that what we can expect to see from Pints this year is a lot more speed, recruitment of some faster, zippier players?
Yeah, I reckon everyone knows that. I'm trying to do that. It's not to be the quickest side in the comp. It's just to be able to match up better. Simple as that. It's no secret formula or anything like that. It's just to be able to match up better. I think as a team, we'll just be a better side if we can match up with the opposition quicks.
Tell me about that first win for you in the Premier League this last season.
Yeah, it was quite amazing to do it against Saints. Was I my whole career I barely won a game against Saints. So I'm talking back in the 90s, right through up to 2010. I don't think I'd ever won a senior game against St. Mary's. So to win our first game against St. Mary's it was just a really exciting night. Saints are always a great side. So I'm not sure if it was a surprise to beat them or what, but it probably was because we hadn't won a game before. But it was great. I think more to get that first win was great for the club, and there was some amazing scenes in the rooms after it. So it was great.
Who do you think this season is going to be the big mover, the surprise packet? You can't say yourself, and don't tell me Waratahs because they're the premiers. But which club are you probably the most concerned about or the most excited for, for another club that you think is going to have the biggest improvement?
I think Southern Districts, even though they finished second, I think they're going to be a lot stronger this year. They're just going to add to what they had last year. And, I think the way that they're going about it with Shannon in charge, I think they're going to improve drastically this year. So it'll be an interesting year because I know Waratahs are going to be solid. I think there's teams coming up as well to match them. So, it'll be a good year.
Yeah, well, best of luck, best wishes for the season ahead. You're a cracking bloke. You're one of my favourite people. I love working with you. I love chatting with you, and I think you're the right man for the job at Pints, and I really hope that they go through and win a premiership with you in charge. Shannon, I just want to acknowledge you for all the work that you do in footy, and collecting those green ants for your brother. You do all the hard yards. Hope everyone remembers that when they're having a cold, nice, icy green ant gin. And thank you for your time on the Mind Your Body show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, before we go, I've got this 10 and 10 that I'm going to ask you about. So as you've been talking, I've been writing. And so I've got what I want you to give me a very quick answer on these 10 things. You ready for it?
Yeah, I'll try.
First thing that comes to mind when I say green ants.
Pain.
Number 2, business.
Hard work.
Number 3, growing up around the Nightcliff Football Club.
Best part of my life.
Number 4, magpie geese.
Yummy.
Number 6, playing all sports as a kid.
Oh, learnt a lot.
Number 6, uniforms.
Hate it.
Number 7, Wanderers Football Club and the transition across.
Yeah, very good part of my life. Yeah, again, one of the best parts of my life.
Number 8, late development. Good or bad?
Hope it don't happen to my kids.
Number 9, winning an AFL premiership.
Amazing.
Where's that? By the way, where's that medal? Where do you have that stored?
You know what? Somewhere here. I'm not too sure. I've got it in a safe spot, but I think it's in with all my photo albums and stuff, just tucked away in a box. So,
and number 10, Pint Football Club.
Yeah, look out.
This is a bonus question. I normally ask this question as number 10, but I wanted to get all those 10 out first. So for you, it's a bonus one. If you could go forward in time or back in time, and this is time travel, so you can come back to now, which point in time would you go to and why?
Oh, that's bloody hard. So I'm thinking about my kids here being born and all that. But I think you want to hear the 1999 AFL Premiership and probably the 2 weeks involved in that. Winning it, game day, and everything that happened after it was amazing. So, it's hard to beat that.
The 2 weeks, so the week leading up and the week after, is that what you're referring to?
No, the winning it, and then we ended from there. It was just a really good week together, and then we ended up in Cancun, Mexico, for a week. So yeah, those 2 weeks were bloody amazing. It's hard to beat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I imagine. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk about your kids though. So if you're going to mention, go back in time to your kids, tell me about that.
Yeah, probably. My son being born, my 3 sons and my daughter. But yeah, just how can you leave those out? Just watching them grow up. Yeah, just and seeing what they become is really interesting. My 19-year-old Brody, he's in a point of his life where he doesn't know what he's going to do at the moment, and he's just kind of in limbo. He's down in Adelaide trying out the footy thing with currently on the Port Magpies list, but yet to play a senior game, and he's just sort of in limbo and working his life out. So all those things you come across in life with your kids is it's great. You just love having kids.
I want to give you an opportunity to shout out your wife as well, because I imagine that you would really want to, because obviously you can't do so many things without her support. So what does Shannon mean to you?
Yeah. Have you mentioned me and my wife have the same name yet?
No, I haven't. Yeah. As I said that, I thought, geez, I should actually say, what's it like having the same name as your husband and wife?
Yeah, it's funny. It was, it's worn, like you just saw there. It's worn off. Everyone's sort of got used to it now, but it was quite weird early. And when we met, I thought to myself, this could never be my wife. But, we just sort of got used to it. And, it just went from there. But, the funny thing is, her middle name's Edith and my middle name's Edward. So our mail comes in SE Motlop and can get a bit confusing. So, it's always a laugh, and it gets a run over the radio now and then. I was driving along one day on my way home for lunch, and next minute they're talking about me and my wife on the radio. So in Adelaide, because they picked up on our names in the paper, and they ran a segment on it. So it is a bit of a laugh. So funny thing is, we were in Bali the other year, and we met someone who actually knows someone else that is married to Shannon, and Shannon's married in Melbourne. So found that funny.
So it's like a bit of a not so unique.
Yeah, which is kind of annoying.
Shannon, thank you so much, and best wishes for the season ahead and life in general, business as well.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me. All right. Cheers.
What's the most overlooked part of running, but the most important? Your mechanics. My new course, Running Mechanics 101, is a 9-module course which will teach you how to run more efficiently and effectively. For free instant access, simply head on over to jacobandre.com.